Let's move on to the SEC Championship Saturday, 4 Eastern on ABC in Atlanta between Texas and Georgia, a rematch of earlier this year when Georgia won at Texas by 15. This will be played on a fast track. Historically, SEC championship games have gone over more times than under. I like Texas here. I can't wait to get your thoughts. I played them 2.5. I might come back on Georgia based on how the game goes. What have we seen all year? Georgia goes down in the first quarter every game. I mean, except the Texas game. And this Georgia team will be dangerous in the playoffs. They're like in the most hyped up need to win spots. They're going to be dangerous. Kirby will get them ready. But all year, name one game where Georgia was completely dominant start to finish on offense and defense. Like, this is a team, their defense isn't as good as it's been. You can run on them. And Texas now has found its running game. I mean, you go back to this Georgia team, like second half against Clemson was good. Kentucky, they won by 1. Alabama, the second half was good. They were down big early. The Auburn game, I guess that was a good effort. Mississippi State, like not dominant. The Texas game, the offense wasn't great. Against Florida, meh. Ole Miss, they get blown out. Tennessee, fairly impressive. UMass, I mean, you're down 7. You let UMass go 8 yards on the field. Against Georgia Tech last week, you should have lost. Georgia Tech loses. Your offense is dead. You can't stop in the first half. Georgia Tech loses all its defensive backs to injury, and you come back, you win in 8 overtimes. Why do I like Texas here? Well, there's just issues with this Georgia team right now, specifically on offense. They can't run the ball at all.
Mm-hmm.
They're incapable of running it. Part of that, and I don't think many realize, their offensive line is all hurt, and they can't run block. Wilson's dealing with an injury. Fairchild, Ratledge had surgery. He's back, but I don't think he's 100%. Freeling's now hurt. They're all going to play, but they're just not healthy. And all their backs, they're down 4 of their top 5 backs. And then their receivers are not that talented.
Right.
And then I look at the Texas side. Who has more team speed at wide receiver and running back? It's clearly Texas.
Yeah.
On this fast track, I think that benefits them in this. I think the Arch Manning potential package, you need a running quarterback against Georgia. That's what concerns me about yours. But the Arch Manning package, that could be beneficial here. The adjustments that Texas needs to make. Georgia came out very aggressive on defense, kind of threw a wild card out there. Well, Texas saw that. I think this game also just maybe means a little bit more to Texas first year in the SEC. Revenge for getting embarrassed on their home field. I think they're going to come out with their hair on fire. We've seen Georgia not do that. This isn't a must win. It's not like the biggest game. Like they're in the playoff already. And so when I look, I just go down the line. Texas, much more reliable offensive line. I know Banks is hurt left tackle, but that kid who came in last week, they were fine against Texas A&M.
Yep.
They have the better defense. That's been the one constant for Texas all year. Is their dominant defense. Georgia can't run the ball. I can't see Georgia throwing the ball with a ton of success on known passing situations with their weapons. And Texas has better weapons, more speed. Georgia does have a special teams edge, big net putting edge. So maybe they win the special teams battle. But even if Georgia's able to move the ball, Texas elite red zone defense. So special teams, maybe Kirby pulls out one of his master motivational speeches. The game is played in Atlanta, but we've seen all year this Georgia team start slow. I think Sark will have a good script. Bobo does not, and there's just so many limitations on this Georgia offense right now. I bet if Kirby could, and he couldn't do this, but I bet Kirby would prefer to forfeit this game and rest up for the next couple weeks and get ready for the college football playoff. So I like Texas here. Play the -2.5. I think they come out hot. Doesn't mean I might look to come back on Georgia. They've shown it all year. They do have the ability to come back. They can make really good adjustments. But I play Texas. What are your thoughts?
If I got to hear Kirby say grit and resilience to describe this team, he never said that the past 3 years, right? I think that is his way of acknowledging this team is just not there. It's not been what they've had from the form of the last 3 years. Let's get a bet out of the way. Let's get it out of the way real quick before I talk about X's and O's on offense and defense. We are betting Texas first quarter. I mean, this whole thing of fading Georgia in the first quarter has been fun. It's been a lot of fun. Georgia, the entire season, negative scoring differential, minus 0.4. Texas, completely different in the scripted portion, plus 7.3, one of the best in the nation. There is a huge difference in how these teams handle scripted portion on both sides of the ball. Texas first quarter is still out there, I think minus 120. Please, thank you. I'll take it again. I like that bet.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put in, I don't think I've ever done it. I'm going to put in a round robin of first quarters this weekend. That'll be fun.
Yeah. I mean, if our read is
Army
right,
and Texas will be in there.
yeah, it's actually going to be an actually interesting weekend for these teams that are already in the playoff to see how much they actually show up. Can you imagine not showing up in your conference championship game if you're Oregon or Georgia? Yeah, Kelvin Banks is at left tackle. He's listed as questionable. We'll see if he's going to play. Trevor Goosby is the one who came in 125 snaps this season at left tackle. So even if for some reason Kelvin Banks doesn't play, Goosby was just as good in run blocking and pass protection as Banks was. So don't see a big issue there. Banks has some revenge here if he plays. He's only given up one sack this season. It came to Georgia. He's only given up 6 pressures. 2 of them came against Georgia. So if Texas does have their left tackle, he's got some revenge to play for here. I want to start on the Georgia offensive side of the ball because, I'm a little pissed off. I wrote this game up for action, and sometimes I do Twitter search to find some of the plays that I put in my articles. And I tell you what, if I have to see any more Snapchat of Carson Beck, it's just going to be too much.
Oh,
This
God.
guy needs to put a shirt on and get away from the girls. Uh, Look, Georgia, their offense has looked clean the last 3 games, but there is a reason for that. Tennessee, UMass, Georgia Tech produced just 19 pressures in 3 games against Carson Beck. Before that, against Texas, Florida, and Ole Miss, Carson Beck saw 37, double. And when he has pressure, he can't set his feet. He can't throw downfield. He looks horrific. But there's another thing that's a problem for the Georgia offense. Georgia leads the nation in drops, 36. 36 drops, more than anybody. The UMasses, the Akrons, everybody of the world does not have as many drops as the targets for Georgia. And with Trevor Etienne not expected to play, I mean, Kirby said at his presser on Monday, he said, listen, he was, mentioned as questionable for Georgia Tech. He was nowhere near close to returning for that game. I don't expect him to be here either. So this game is completely on Beck's arm, which means he needs pass protection, which means, it's a real problem here for this offense. And Pete Kwiatkowski, the defensive coordinator for Texas, second in defensive finishing drives, first in quality drives. This defense is doing a number on teams. The EPA might be the only avenue for Carson Beck to get this team into scoring position. But do you really want to be in passing downs with Carson Beck? Do you really want him facing pressure here? I mean, Texas is top 10 defense in passing downs success rate and EPA. I'm not sure Georgia can replicate what they did in Austin. They went 6 of 17 on third downs. I think that was a little bit of a fluke when you look at Texas's numbers. When you go to the other side of the ball, when Georgia's on defense, I think Texas, you mentioned Arch Manning's going to come in and run this. I mean, Quinn Ewers had 7 turnover worthy plays against Georgia, right? He's had 15 on the season. Half of them came in one game against Georgia. I think if Sark sees that, you're going to get the hook. I mean, it's got to be the Arch Manning, the Quintravion Wisner zone read. I mean, and Wisner, by the way, 350 rushing yards over the last 2 games against the defenses of Kentucky and Texas A&M. Texas dominated Texas A&M on the ground. They stuffed 13 of 49 attempts. I'm sorry, I'm talking about the Texas offense. The Texas offensive line dominated the Texas A&M defensive line, not something that we expected. They averaged 5 yards per carry. The Aggies defensive line managed just a single sack. The Longhorns converted 8 of 16 on third and fourth down. Just a domination. The only thing that's going to hold this Texas offense back is the fact that Quinn Ewers, he's gone from 1.7 to 4.2% turnover worthy play rate. But I have a feeling he has a quick hook if Sark sees it. I think the defense is going to be in control of Georgia here. I think there's a revenge aspect. Kelvin Banks, the left tackle, has a revenge aspect. There's just too many holes in Georgia right now. The cleanliness, I mean, that Georgia Tech game said everything. They said everything. And the fact that UMass scored 21 points on the Georgia defense, how does that happen? How does that happen in this world? So I like Texas here. I'm starting off with the first quarter. I haven't decided yet. I'm getting in full game, but I like Texas all the way here.